Hi everyone, thanks for watching today. This is Devin, and today I chose my movement analysis as passing in volleyball. Passing in volleyball is essential to this aspect of the game. As part of it, you wouldn't be able to play the game if you weren't able to pass. And it is also a social and physical activity. Personally, I used to play when I was younger, and I still enjoy playing this sport, so that is essentially why I chose this movement. So the action steps involve finding a partner or a wall, and then grabbing the volleyball. You can use the wall instead of a partner if you don't have one. You can kind of just pass back and forth on a hard surface. It works just as well. And then after you grab your volleyball, you can start passing back and forth. One thing to keep in mind during all of this is you want to have a medium area space, like a driveway or a backyard could be about the smallest you could go. You typically would maybe want like a beach court or a regular court, but whatever you can find, usually just simply a backyard or a driveway would be enough. Here's a short little video to kind of give you an idea. So yeah, just a short little clip to kind of see what the basics are. Obviously, there is so much more that a volleyball pass can be with serving or with digging a hard hit. You can get into different positions, but today we're just going to go over the basic volleyball forearm pass. So the positions that you are going to be in is ready stance. So standing with your knees slightly bent. It doesn't have to be bent. Players can stand however they wish, and with their arms slightly out in front of them, ready to be put together for whenever the ball comes at them. The second stance is the pass stance, which is much more of a squat position where the knees are more bent and the knees are together to pass the ball. Where the hands are together to pass the ball. You want to create that surface. And then the final one is the follow through, where the legs are extended, the knees and hips are extended, and you return to more of a standing position while slightly leaning forward so that you can direct the ball to your setter or to your partner, whoever you're passing the ball with. It is very important during this stage to use their legs during the passing to ensure accuracy instead of just swinging their arms, because typically when you just swing your arms and you don't use your legs, the ball can tend to be thrown in every which direction. So some unique characteristics include timing and stance. So you want to know when to squat down to reach the ball at the best optimal place on the arms and when it gets to you. And then you also have to do timing while you're controlling the pass, which also accounts for body positioning. This can vary obviously on stance, whether or not you are digging a hit, passing a serve receive, or just simply passing with your friend. And then you also have to account for the timing and the speed of the ball and where you need to move if the ball is not directly in front of you and you have to kind of shuffle in front of that. Timing and stance also play a major role during serve receive and digging, as I mentioned, since the ball is coming at a much faster speed toward the player and adjustments have to be made quickly. Obviously, this is a whole body movement, so the ankle, knee, hip, shoulder, elbow, wrist, hand, neck, scapula, thoracic, forearm. I think I might have forgot to put that in there, but it's in there too. So all of these movements, or all of these joints, are affected by this movement. So we will start out with the shoulder movement, and as you can see, there is a short little demonstration of how to pass. So typically when you start in the ready position, the shoulders are relaxed position. They can approximately about 50 degrees of flexion. Doesn't necessarily have to be. It's whatever the player is comfortable with. But once you get into the contact position, the shoulders are much more at a 90-degree angle during the stage, and as well as the follow through, because you leave the shoulders in the same area as you just move your legs. So then the agonists for this include the anterior deltoid, with the synergist being the coracobrachialis, biceps brachii, and the pectoralis major. And the antagonist muscle is the latissimus dorsi. And this action is concentric. And then we move into the neck. So the neck, you want to angle your neck. It is about 20 degrees of extension. This is up to each player as it depends on where you're looking because it's strictly based on where you're looking for the ball. So about 20 degrees of extension throughout the whole time because you want to also follow the pass to make sure that it goes where you want it to. So the agonist muscle is the SCM or the sternocleidomastoid, the synergist being the prevertebral group and the scalenes, and the antagonist being the upper trapezius. And since this is against gravity, it is an eccentric contraction of the flexors. The last one that we'll go into on this slide is the scapulothoracic, is full protraction. So during the ready stance, arms are kind of forward. You might have a slight bit of protraction, but you're going to have more when the shoulders are fully extended at 90 degrees and you want your arms right out in front of you. So you're going to have about full protraction there, with your agonist muscle being your serratus anterior, your synergist being your pectoralis minor, and your antagonist being your middle trapezius and rhomboids, and the contraction is concentric. Our next one will be the elbow, and during the slightly relaxed, the elbow can be flexed in ready position or it can be fully extended. It depends on how the player wishes to hold their hands. It's completely up to them, but typically once you are in the passing or the contact position, you're going to want to be in 0 degrees of extension to ensure that when the ball hits the arms, it has a flat surface. And for this, the agonist muscle is the triceps brachii, the synergist is the anconeus, the antagonist is the biceps brachii, the brachialis, and the brachioradialis, and the contraction is concentric. Now we move into the forearm, which the forearm will go into about 45 degrees of supination to allow for the ball to have a flat surface to come on during the contact phase and the follow through because the shoulders and the arms stay the same. So your agonist is the supinator, your synergist is your biceps brachii, your antagonist is your pronator teres and the quadratus, and the contraction is concentric. The wrist is typically neutral during most of it, and then once you have your hands together, you kind of go into a little bit of ulnar deviation. So about 10 degrees, it's not very much. It's just whatever is comfortable to kind of make sure if it does hit your wrist, it's semi-flat. The agonists for this are the flexor carpi ulnaris and the flexor carpi ulnaris and the extensor carpi ulnaris, with the antagonist being your extensor carpi radialis longus and your flexor carpi radialis, and the contraction is concentric. Throughout most of the movement, your thumbs are flexed. Personally, I do not hold my hands like that. I can usually hold them more in a cupped position, so it's neutral throughout mine. And then the MCP, the PIP, and the DIPs are all relatively flexed to about 45, 45, and 20, just as a cupping motion. The agonists for that are the FDS, FDP, the lumbricals, the interossi, and the FDM, with the antagonist being the extensor digitorum, and the contraction is also concentric. The trunk and the hip. So the trunk, typically the erector spinae and the transversus spinalis are contracting concentrically to kind of keep you upright and your back extended when you're bent over. And the hip ranges anywhere from about 70 to 110 degrees of flexion into about 0 degrees extension, not shown in the picture or the video. When you're in your passing stances, when you get down really low and then you extend up into the extension. So for that, the motion is eccentric, down into the squat, concentric, coming out. Your agonist is your glute max, synergist is your hamstrings, and your antagonist is your iliopsoas, pectineus, and the rectus femoris. Yeah. And then the knee is approximately 45 to 90 degrees of flexion and then into 0 degrees of extension. And once again, this is changes upon the player. It depends on how they like to be in ready position. Some people like to go straight to 90 and stay until they go into 0. It just depends. The antagonist is going to be your quads, and it's eccentric going down and concentric coming up. And then the synergists are the gastroc and the soleus, and your antagonists are your hamstrings. The ankle. So the ankle is in about 10 to 15 degrees of dorsiflexion. Depends on the player and how much they like to lean forward or how much they don't. It is, once again, discretion upon the player. But the plantar flexors are the agonist, and the synergist are the gastroc and the soleus, and the antagonists are the tibialis anterior extensor digitorum. And the movement is concentric as you're coming down into the squat, and then when you're lifting forward, your plantar flexors are acting. So for my adaptation, I chose adhesive capsulitis, otherwise known as frozen shoulder. And so my adaptation is a beach ball. So you can still enjoy the sport. You can still enjoy the social ability of the sport. But this way, because passing the ball includes a much larger amount of like shoulder strength and range of motion, this will decrease the strength needed to pass the ball while still enjoying the game. So, and then you can further upgrade this with a rubber ball as their strength improves. And that is all that I have. These are my references. So thank you everyone, and I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you have a nice week.